The content, views, and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the City of Bremerton, BCAT, their officials, or their employees. Welcome to Conversation with the Community Leader, brought to you by the Leadership Kitsap Foundation. I'm your host and LK alum, Dave Walters. With me today is Irene Moyer, CEO and President of the Greater Kitsap Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
So, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Dave.
So, before we talk about all the things the Chamber does, let's talk about you.
Sure.
Where are you originally from?
So I'm a Kitsap transplant. My family and I have lived here for just over 10 years, but I'm originally from southern New Mexico, way down at the bottom. Born and raised there. I lived a little bit all over between then and now, but most recently, before our family moved here, we were living in Colorado Springs for about a decade.
That's a beautiful place there. That's a beautiful place.
Yes.
Did you go to high school there then?
No. So yeah, did all of my high school and everything in New Mexico, and then lived for a while in Southern California where I did schooling, did the East Coast for a little bit, and then came back west. So
where'd you go to school?
I did my undergraduate at California Lutheran University, just outside of LA.
That's kind of the southern version of PLU.
It is.
Okay.
It's like the sister school for PLU. So a lot of Pacific Northwest kids who love PLU but want some sunshine head on down to CLU. So I did my undergraduate degree there, and then I followed that up with my master's at the University of Southern California.
Oh, and what did you study?
I studied communications.
Okay, so kind of PR kind of thing.
PR, advertising, communication flow, and management. So yeah.
Okay. Now, how did you get to Kitsap County?
Oh gosh, that's kind of a fun story. So like I said, we were living in Colorado, and my parents, who had still been in New Mexico, decided to retire up here. They had friends who lived here. They visited pretty regularly. They decided to make the move up to Bremerton. And then about 2 years later, my husband had the opportunity with his job to transfer either to Southern California or up to the Seattle metro area. So we actually asked our three kiddos, well, one was a newborn, but our two older kiddos, if they wanted to live near Disneyland or if they wanted to live near Grandma and Grandpa, and they said they wanted to live by Grandma and Grandpa.
That's kind of a risky question to ask.
It is. But they didn't hesitate. My kids are really close with my family, so I wasn't really surprised. And so yeah, it's been great. So we've got family up here now, and this is what we call home.
Oh, nice. And then when did you decide to get into, or how did you get into the chamber?
Sure. Chamber work was never anything that was like on my radar. Before starting work in this industry, I actually was a stay-at-home mom for about 12 years. After we left the East Coast, we kind of decided that I wanted to be at home with the kiddos. And so when we moved to Washington, I wasn't working. And what I think a lot of parents do is get uber involved in what their kids are involved in. And so I was volunteering in the community. And I ended up serving on a nonprofit board for a local theater organization that my oldest daughter was involved in. That's Kitsap Children's Musical Theater. And so I ended up serving on that board. I was their finance director and their treasurer. And one of the board members that I served with actually worked with the Poulsbo Chamber. And so as my kids were getting older and getting near to the last one being in school, I started kind of exploring like what I might do, because my previous work history had all really been in higher education. And so then talking with this fellow board member, they ended up having a position available at the Poulsbo Chamber. And I thought that might be a nice way to kind of ease back into the workforce, and discovered that I really loved working with small businesses, with nonprofits. And it just really took off from there. So I was at the Poulsbo Chamber for about 2 years, and then made the move down to Central Kitsap.
Okay, so and at the time it was the Central Kitsap Chamber of Commerce?
So there was the Silverdale Chamber of Commerce. That's where
Silverdale,
I
I'm
moved.
sorry,
Yep, Silverdale. And there already were some early discussions, and it's one of the things that prompted the move about merging some of our local chambers. So that was really interesting to me. I was really excited about being able to work with a larger kind of area of businesses. And so I made the move down to Silverdale. And then within about 6 months or so, we were already pretty deep into conversation about merging the Silverdale Chamber of Commerce with the Bremerton Chamber.
And then, so that was in 2022, right? When that got merged?
Yeah.
So what was the why behind merging the two chambers?
Yeah. As I've heard it, there have been conversations happening literally since the 70s, which is really when the Silverdale Chamber first began. Bremerton has a much longer history.
So kind of about time the mall was getting going and all that.
Yeah. And there were conversations that would pop up every now and again because the communities are so intertwined. They're very close. Oftentimes it's hard to know where one ends and the next one picks up. And those two particular chambers had a lot of overlap in their membership. And so there would be conversations that would come up periodically and then just kind of, fade away. And so when it came back around, right during the pandemic really was when we started some serious conversations about what that might look like. It just really made a lot of sense, right, to be smarter about how we're working and what we're doing. And it was very much driven by our members. We had members coming to our board with the question of, why don't we merge? This just makes sense. I don't want to go to two luncheons.
Right, especially if they're members of both, right?
Right, yeah. So it just made a lot of sense. And some things just kind of fell into place during the pandemic that really made it be a more serious conversation so that things came together in such a way that we were able to do it. So the work really began in 2021 into 22. We spent the first 6 to 7 months working with a task force that had members of the Bremerton board and the Silverdale board, and we worked with a consultant, of course, and that was the group that was tasked with, what is this new chamber going to look like? And then we officially launched on July 1st of 2022.
Wow, exciting. Okay, so kind of to take a pause, what is a chamber of commerce?
That's a great question. And I think it's really evolved over the last...
You are a nonprofit.
We are a nonprofit. Okay. We are a 501c6 nonprofit. And so that's a little bit different than I think what most people are familiar with. We do have a C3 foundation for the chamber, but chambers of commerce typically are C6 organizations, which essentially means that we are a nonprofit that is membership based. Okay. So, we have members who pay dues to belong to the chamber, though we really truly serve businesses across the region, whether or not they're members, right? If you are doing business in Kitsap, if you have a nonprofit in Kitsap, you are being impacted by the work that we do. Obviously, we would love to have everyone be a member, but it is membership based. And we have a primary focus of serving that membership base. And we are really fortunate that we do have a nice, it's not a balance per se, because we have close to 600 members in the Greater Kitsap Chamber. Wow. About 80 or so are nonprofits and more traditional C3 nonprofits. So the bulk of our membership are businesses, for-profit businesses. And so our work really is focused on commerce. And technically, our official name, we actually dropped the of commerce. Oh. So it's just the Greater Kitsap Chamber. Excuse me. And part of that is a little bit of a movement in our industry of chambers being more inclusive in our work. So commerce kind of indicates that we are really only working with businesses and for-profit type entities, when really our work kind of goes beyond that. It is really across our community. So we dropped the of commerce part of it. And yeah, we do, oh my gosh, we do so many different things. There are some very business focused things. There are a lot of advocacy type issues that we tackle. And then there are some things that are strictly for our community.
And then so the advocacy for the businesses, those are basically the businesses coming together and working with government agencies or whatnot to
I mean, chambers really do serve as a voice for the business community. I think that's really kind of where they began. So when you asked, like what is a chamber of commerce, it is an entity that affords a voice for a larger, group of people. So we're that sound piece for them. But the advocacy work that we do, I'm really proud of, because we have great relationships with our elected officials, both local, regional, state level, and now even the federal level. We do a lot of work to make sure that the needs of our members, their concerns are being heard by those elected officials. So there can be instances where we as a chamber, whether it's our staff or our board of directors, are actually going and having meetings with those individuals to let them know, hey, XYZ tax is really not great for business. There are other opportunities where we are just creating that space for our members to have those conversations directly with their elected officials. So, we definitely are a convener of people in our community, and that advocacy piece is one of them. We also do have an event that we do with the Association of Washington Business, which is essentially the state chamber, AWB, and they host a hill climb every year, which we participate in. And so we actually bring a group of our members down to Olympia every year during session to meet with legislators, to talk about the issues. Sometimes we testify in front of committees, and so all of that plays into that advocacy piece.
So one of the themes I've seen on this show is the advocacy with our elected officials. Whether that be the schools and organization, nonprofits. I had Scarlet Roads on here last month, and Scarlet Road, sorry. And the advocacy is we need to make sure we're contacting our elected officials so they work on what we want them to work on.
Absolutely.
And understand what our needs are.
They do, yeah.
I'm sure they do their best
Right.
at all times, but they need the input from
They do.
the community.
If they don't hear from us directly and how it's impacting, our community, whether it be a business or a nonprofit, or just, what's happening very localized, they're not going to know, right? They've got their priorities too. And so it is important for us to provide that conduit for getting that message over to them.
So a quick plug for Leadership Kitsap. You are a Leadership Kitsap grad.
I am, class of 22.
Class of 22. Okay, relatively recent.
It is.
And because I was a long time ago. And then, and you're also a board member now.
I am, yes.
That's good. That's fun. Fun serving on that board.
It is.
So where are your offices?
So we have 2 sets of offices, part of that coming from the merger. We do have an office here in Silverdale at the Kitsap Mall. Believe it or not, the mall is not dead. So we love it. It's a great place because our offices also serve as visitor centers. And so a great piece of that is that there's great parking available.
Right.
And it's easy for people to find us. So our Silverdale location is in the Kitsap Mall, next to the old Macy's. And then we do have a location in downtown Bremerton on Pacific Avenue. So it's just a block up from the Admiral Theater.
Oh, just right there.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so who exactly are your members? I mean, who are your members?
Everyone, Dave.
Okay.
We do have a lot of members. Like I said, we've got close to 600 members now. So we are the largest chamber on the peninsula. And we very much are framed more as a regional chamber. So we have members, of course, coming to us from Silverdale and Bremerton. But we have members across the county, across our region.
And you don't have to be a large company, correct?
No, we've got members who, it's one person, right? That solopreneur. But then we also have large entities who are members of the chamber. So, Kitsap Bank, Kitsap Credit Union, the hospital, PSNS, are all members of the chamber. But the bulk of our membership really are some of those smaller businesses. And like I said, they can be as small as one, but on average, I would say, you're looking at probably staffs of, 10 to 50 people.
Okay.
But it can be, a local bookstore, it can be the hospital.
So are there eligibility requirements that you have?
Not
really? Okay.
Yeah. So
Just a business or a nonprofit?
Yeah. So we invite anyone who essentially actually lives, works, or plays in Kitsap County to be a member of the chamber. We have individuals who maybe had been in business for many years and retired or sold their business, who still are engaged with the chamber, and they can be chamber members as well.
Okay.
We've got nonprofits, we've got for-profits, so kind of run the gamut. About around 36% of our members are Bremerton-based businesses or organizations, 31% are Silverdale, 18% are North Kitsap. So we've got over 100 members just coming to us out of Poulsbo. So we do have a really wide variety and members outside of county. So
How big is your staff?
not big at all. We would love to have a bigger staff. Really, there are only 3 full-time staff members. We do have a couple of part-time folks who help us out. We're also really blessed to have a great board of directors, and definitely engage them in some of the work that we do. Lots of volunteer opportunities for our members, for our board members, for the community at large. So we tap into a lot of different networks to help us accomplish the work that we do. But yeah, there's only 3 of us that are there full time.
So you have a lot of events that you do throughout the year. So what are some of those?
Okay. Gosh, we do have a lot of events. I think we did a count for this last year, and we had something like 65 events.
Yeah, in your events on your website, you had 6 things that are happening like right away.
Yeah. So we do a lot.
So start off with your member luncheon, right?
So
that's the big event.
We do host a member lunch every month. It's always on the 4th Wednesday of the month. That's a great opportunity for our members to get together and connect and network. So we do build a lot of that into that particular event, but it's also a professional and business development type opportunity.
We have a speaker.
So there's always a program put on for that luncheon.
But the real gusto is in the
a lot of it is what's happening between the members, during those luncheons. So we have those. Just this year in January, we launched a new networking event in the evenings, kind of trying to reach another audience that maybe can't break away for a lunch. And so we have an event called Chamber Off the Clock. It's basically our social networking hour. That's always on the 3rd Tuesdays of the month.
Well, that's monthly as well.
That is monthly as well, and that is hosted at a member location. So it will hop around the county every month. So we have members who are hosting that, very business, nonprofit focused. So we're really looking again for ways to kind of convene people, bring them together, help them see what those connections might be between the work they're doing and what someone else is doing. So that's really about networking. So that's a big membership kind of event.
And then you have an Eggs and Issues.
What
is Eggs and Issues?
Eggs and Issues, actually, we inherited from the Bremerton Chamber.
Oh, okay.
And so this year, I believe it's the 28th annual Eggs and Issues that will be hosted. Basically, that's our candidate forum, so it kind of falls under that advocacy piece that I talked about. And so we always host candidate forums that are open to the community. It's not just for chamber members. A lot of the work we do is not just for chamber members. And essentially, we just host an opportunity for those running for a particular office to come and have a conversation. So we do have a set of questions and a moderator from our advocacy committee that will ask those questions. The audience can also add their questions in. So we've got that coming up pretty soon for this fall's election. We'll be hosting some forums for the Bremerton mayoral race, 2 of the city council seats, and then of course the 26th legislative district, that particular race. So that'll be coming up, and we do that every year in like September, October.
And then you also do an annual business and nonprofit awards.
We do. Yes, so that's our Business Awards Gala, and that's held every fall. This year it's going to be on December 12th at the Kitsap Conference Center in downtown Bremerton. And it's just a really great opportunity for our members to all be in the same room together and to celebrate the work that they've done over the last year. So I've
been to one of those before.
Yeah,
they're a lot of fun.
They are a lot of fun.
It's actually a lot of fun.
They really are. I mean, it is a fundraiser for the chamber, so that's always kind of front of our mind. But really, we're wanting to recognize the work that's been happening. And so we have 6 different awards that we give at that. Right now, nominations are open for consideration for any of those awards. So it's things like Hospitality Business of the Year, New Business of the Year, Pioneer, so if you've been in business for 15 years or longer.
And a
We have a nonprofit of the
award.
year award, and then new this year we started. We will be recognizing best festival or event because there are so many really cool things that are happening here in Kitsap.
Oh yeah.
Oftentimes put on by some of our nonprofits, so we want to recognize those efforts too. So that'll be coming up, like I said, on December 12th, and that's definitely a room you want to be in. Again, whether or not you're a chamber member, it's pretty packed with people you want to connect with.
And you have the summer concert series.
We've got our summer concert series, Silverdale at Sunset, that we've had now for, I believe, 4 years. And so that's a great event. And that's one that we actually kind of wear a little bit of a different hat. So along with our work for our members and advocacy and things like that, is, as I mentioned, having a visitor center for City of Bremerton and for Kitsap County. So we wear that tourism hat as well. And so some of the things that we do can include, a concert series. Where yes, locals of course enjoy it, absolutely, but we also advertise that to folks who are out of our area. That particular event is held at the Silverdale waterfront, and so we do a lot of marketing to reach the boating communities in the West Sound region and beyond to come down for things like that. So that event is held every August, every Wednesday through the month of August. We have a concert down in the park. We also host the Armed Forces Day Festival, which is in downtown Bremerton. This coming year in 2026 will be the 79th year for that festival, and so it's a huge parade. We've been told it is the longest running Armed Forces Day parade west of the Mississippi, so we're really excited about that. And that's just a great event for the greater kind of Kitsap community, the military community, and even beyond. We've got marching bands coming from Wenatchee, and Spokane who will come to participate in that event. So it's a pretty big deal. We also have a Military Appreciation Day event that we host at the fairgrounds every spring. So there's always something that we're doing.
And you recently had or worked with Kitsap Transit for the pop-up ferry.
Yes, yeah.
It was a super success.
It was super fun. So we hosted a pop-up ferry event over the Labor Day weekend, so just a couple of weeks ago. And we did it sort of in conjunction with the Blackberry Festival that the Bremerton Rotary hosts. Knowing that a lot of people go to that festival, we wanted to, there were a couple of things why we hosted this event. Part of it was, let's just get people to Bremerton and have them avoid the traffic and the parking that can sometimes be a little bit hard when there's big events happening in downtown. The waterway between Silverdale and Bremerton is one that I don't think many people get to experience from the water, so
gorgeous.
That's always really neat.
Yeah, you see all the mountains. And,
yeah, it's a beautiful ride. But another part of that, the reasoning behind this event really is to keep some conversations going about what that might look like to have local ferry service between Silverdale and Bremerton.
The old mosquito fleet.
So we
have that between Bremerton and Port Orchard.
Right.
And it's super popular, not just for commuters.
Yeah, and we really want to look at it as, maybe this is something that happens, in the future to bridge these two communities. Perhaps it could be a way for folks to commute from Silverdale to Bremerton, workers going to the shipyard. So we want to kind of keep that conversation going. And this was actually the second time that the Chamber participated in an event like this. 2 years ago, we had some private business owners come to the Chamber to see if we might be able to help with this idea that they had for a pop-up ferry. And Commissioner Walters was a big part of that conversation as well. And
You don't have to name drop. It's okay.
And but she, really kind of helped bring this group together back in 2023 to talk about what it would look like to have, interlocal ferry service. And it was really, really well received in 2023. And so we were asked to do it again this year to see, is that interest still there? And also a third part of it was, as we are prepping for the FIFA World Cup games that are going to be in Seattle next summer, we want to look at things that we might be able to do here in Kitsap.
Because that is huge for Kitsap
It
businesses.
is huge,
And our community.
We want to spread those visitors out.
Yeah.
We want to, show them what I think is a little bit of a unique experience for Kitsap.
And the visitor dollars is great.
Visitor
And
dollars
it's
are the
gonna
best
be
dollars.
huge. Yeah.
And so. And visitors really kind of are enamored with ferry boats, and
It's in every movie.
It's
in every
movie.
TV show that they show
Exactly.
and movie they show in Washington.
And what we have here, with the Carlisle through Kitsap Transit and even the fast ferries that they operate, is just an even more special piece to that ferry puzzle. So we're looking at ways that we can maybe employ some of those activities next summer.
All right. Well, our time has wound
my
down.
gosh.
I told you it was going to go fast.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming, and thank you for all that you and the Chamber does
Yes,
for
you're
all of
welcome.
Kitsap County,
Yeah.
businesses and the community itself.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming to another episode of Conversation with the Community Leader. And please go to Kitsap Chamber.
Greater Kitsap Chamber.
KitsapChamber.com and leadershipkitsap.org for more information about these organizations.